Why did the clones not shoot Anakin? Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you never miss a single video that we do. Now, let's get into it. So, in my favorite Star Wars movie of all time, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, after the death of Mace Windu right before Order 66, the Emperor commands Anakin Skywalker, or Darth Vader now, to go and kill every single Jedi at the Jedi Temple. This is the first order he gives to Anakin. And other than spawning an amazing shot, it is the beginning of the coolest part of the movie, that being Order 66. But I and a lot of other fans always question why the clones didn't think Anakin was a part of the Jedi, because they didn't kill him. It's not like he had a red lightsaber signifying that he wasn't a Jedi anymore or anything like that. He still had his blue lightsaber and was obviously a very, very known Jedi. It was Anakin Skywalker. I don't believe that there is a canon reason, but I have a theory. Right after Palpatine tells Anakin to go to the Jedi Temple, he personally calls the commander of the 501st, telling him to inform his men that Anakin Skywalker was not a traitor. Now, we know, especially from my other Star Wars theory about Palpatine wanting Obi-Wan to be the first Jedi killed in Order 66, that all of the Order 66 recordings is just one recording. It's Palpatine saying,
"Execute Order 66."
Just this one clip over and over and over. But I believe Palpatine made another personal call to the commander of the 501st. A new commander, Commander Appo. I mean, honestly, that is the only logical explanation. Like I said, I couldn't find any canon reason why the clones didn't immediately think Anakin was a Jedi, / was a Jedi who was a traitor. One of my very first videos I made on this channel was about how I believe we need a whole movie about Order 66. There's so many angles you could take it. You could go from Anakin's point of view, you could go from a clone's point of view, a Jedi that we know, a Jedi that we made up. There's so many things you could do with that one little concept of something taking place during Order 66, like making an entire movie about it. There's just so much potential there, and I really just love it. I have an entire playlist of Order 66 fan films on my other channel called Stop Motion Commotion. We need Star Wars The Clone Wars back. Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you never miss a single video that we do. Now, let's get into it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Star Wars The Clone Wars had to end eventually. That's what happens when you make a show. And there's nothing worse than when a show just feels like it's dragging on and it just won't end, and it starts to get bad, and then it starts to ruin the stuff that came before. Like, I get that. When I say we need Star Wars The Clone Wars back, I don't mean Star Wars The Clone Wars, the actual TV show. I mean the type of TV show Star Wars The Clone Wars was. See, back in Clone Wars, the title being Star Wars The Clone Wars meant you could make anything you wanted in the timeline of the Clone Wars while the Clone Wars was happening. They had droid tales, they had bounty hunter stories, they had political stories, they had like Sherlock Holmes types of investigation stories, and it wasn't just about the actual war that was going on. It was about so many different characters, new and old. This is why the Clone Wars almost never got old, because the main plot, of course, is the Clone Wars, but there's so many characters that they create around it and during the time. Like, Cad Bane was only created in the Clone Wars. He has 2 or 3, 4 episode arcs with him in it as, like, maybe not the main character, but one of the main characters. Don't get me started about the clones in the show being great characters by themselves, but I am saying we need a period show. A show where the main story is the timeline that they're in. They can tell any story that they want. And maybe they could make it about 2 or 3 characters loosely. I want a show called Star Wars Imperial Rule. This could take place after Bad Batch, or it could take place in the beginning of Bad Batch. It could take place right after Episode 3, and could tell a story about stormtroopers. Make it about stormtroopers. Make some of the main characters them, or just tell a story about, it could even go back and be about the main characters. It could be loosely about Darth Vader. There's a whole comic series about everything that happens to him right after Episode 3, and it is very, very eventful. It could be about Ahsoka and where she directly goes right after Episode 3. Obviously, like, it could be about the Clone Wars characters loosely, and then bring in new characters that are like the main characters, and jump around with each set. I really don't care what exactly they do. I just want a Clone Wars type show where they can tell a story about any character that they wanted in a timeline where everything is changing for everyone. Right after episode 3 is the most interesting and juicy time in Star Wars. There are still Jedi alive, there are still clones that are alive and, not super old. Darth Vader's running around, Darth Maul is running around, Ahsoka doesn't know which way she needs to go, and it's so interesting, and it has barely been covered, at least on screen. I know there's a lot of stuff in the comics, like I said, about the Darth Vader stuff and all that other great stuff, but I'm saying on screen, we have the Bad Batch and the end of the Clone Wars. That is it. And in my opinion, that is a crime. We had little drips of it from Tales of the Jedi with that Ahsoka story that they told where she was working in a farm or whatever. And just that was really cool. And it was 13 minutes. There's just so much potential in that exact time. The first 10 years, starting from episode 3, the first 10 years leading up to how strong the Empire ends up being. And we have absolutely nothing. What do you guys think about this? I am sick of villains turning into the good guy. Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a single upload that we do. Now, let's get into it. I am sick of the villain turning good. I am sick of that trope. Sick of it. Kylo Ren, Iden Versio, Anakin Skywalker, Del, Boba Fett, Fennec Shand. All of these people were villains. I mean, Anakin, to be completely honest, that was kind of the whole point of the story, was his fall to the dark side and then him coming back. To be fair, that was also way back when this trope wasn't so common. I would give Darth Vader / Anakin a pass. But when was the last time we had a new Star Wars villain that was truly intimidating? We really haven't. Kylo Ren was intimidating for half of a movie, then when he took the helmet off, everything became null and void after that. This is the most least threatening person you will ever see. And we keep getting teased in these movies and games and things where it's oh, we're gonna take a deep look into, the other side, the bad guys, the villains. They did that a lot with Iden Versio, and I was super excited about it, and then not even halfway through the game, she turns into a rebel. We haven't really had any good villains, and every time they tease us with something as even Reva, she came back as another example. Reva came to the light at the end of the Kenobi show. I mean, when was the last time we really had a villain for villain's sake that didn't end up having a redemption story? I can tell you the last one I can truly remember, and that is Death from Puss in Boots 2. Now, again, this is completely going off of Star Wars, but this is a true villain who's a villain for villain's sake. He doesn't have a redemption story. He's not misunderstood. He's just a villain. And I truly can't remember the last time we had something like this character in any kind of Star Wars movie or game, especially, but really any content like that at all, especially in the nerd space. If you can think of some, please comment below. I am open to being wrong on this. But man, I really want a villain that I can love to hate. And we haven't had that in a very long time. But tell me what you think.
Oh, come on.
Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you never miss a single video that we do. Now let's get into this. Finally, we get an announcement for a new Star Wars project. Not just an announcement, but an entire trailer. This is Star Wars Tales of the Underworld. There's going to be 6 shorts focusing on Asajj Ventress and Cad Bane. It seems for Cad Bane we are going to be looking into his past on how he became a bounty hunter and just, his whole story as to how he got to where we found him as the galaxy's, or one of the galaxy's most deadliest bounty hunters. I just went on a whole tirade about how I don't believe there's a lot of great Star Wars villains lately, but man, Cad Bane is definitely the exception to that rule. Cad Bane is honestly one of my favorite characters, and I absolutely do not believe that Boba Fett killed him in the book of Boba Fett. I believe his species has 2 hearts. He had something flashing on his chest We don't see his droid Toto, who definitely could have been around the corner getting ready to come and drag him to a ship and revive him. And not just that, he took a blast to the head once. Thus that little plating on his head that we see in Bad Batch, and also in Book of Boba Fett. So getting stabbed by a stick, I don't believe would really kill him. But anyway, we are going to get the story of how Cad Bane became Cad Bane. And I'm super excited about that story, but even more than that, I am excited to see Ventress. Now, originally in the comics, Count Dooku kills her, I think mere weeks before episode 3. That is until, of course, she appeared in the Bad Batch, meaning that her death was retconned, which I'm okay with because other than Ahsoka, I can't really think of any really cool female Star Wars characters. So having her back in the forefront of Star Wars is really exciting. And the fact that they retconned her death means we have no idea where her story goes moving forward. We don't know when she dies, if she joins the rebellion. We have no idea whatsoever. In fact, in the trailer, it kind of looked like she was taking on an apprentice, because there's this little boy who also has a lightsaber that is featured a few times in this story, which makes me think that she is going to take on an apprentice. Not just that, but she was also kind of half training Omega in the Bad Batch, so it's not like she's 100% closed to the idea. The biggest thing that I'm excited about is because unlike Tales of the Empire, which I really didn't like it could have been worse, but at the same time my expectations for the animated stuff is a lot higher because all of the animated stuff has been good pretty much. But unlike Tales of the Empire, these two stories are going to be about characters we actually care about. One character story that is completely open-ended and can go absolutely anywhere, and the other one that we already know and love and we're just getting backstory on, kind of like the Ahsoka episode in the Tales of the Jedi. I'm super excited about this. This is coming out on May the 4th, Star Wars Day, of course, and it's really about time. Star Wars really needs a win, so this is a great thing to get right now. And I am more excited for this than I've been for any Star Wars project probably since Tales of the Empire, which I just said was kind of a disappointment. But for this, I have hope. What do you guys think of it? Let me
Commander Cody, the time has come. Execute Order 66.
Yes, my lord.
Why was Commander Cody the first clone the Emperor contacted and the only clone he called by name? Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you never miss a single upload that we do. Now, let's get into it. So Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time, and my favorite movie of all time. If you've watched this channel for the last, 2 years it's existed, you would know this. This is not a secret. And my favorite moment of my favorite movie is Order 66. It is the moment that completely changes literally everything in the entire galaxy that's been going on for the last 20 years, since Palpatine even really began his scheme. If Order 66 does not work, the galaxy as we know it is completely different. So it's needless to say that I've kind of analyzed this one moment in this movie for a very long time. And one of the moments that really always interested me is the very beginning when Palpatine tells the clones to execute Order 66. It starts off with Commander Cody, and then of course it just kind of goes down the line and we see a bunch of these other Jedi start getting killed. And I always wondered why Cody was the first one he called. And I mean, from a narrative perspective, I mean, Obi-Wan is the other main character in this movie, so of course that would be the next thing that we see. So that always made sense. But at the same time, if you actually watch and listen, after he contacts Commander Cody, every other clone commander that he contacts, it is the exact same recording that he gives to Commander Cody.
Execute Order 66. Execute Order 66. Execute Order 66. Execute Order 66.
Just without saying their name. The Order 66 line is just repeated over and over and over to every single clone, which makes sense. I mean, he wouldn't want to go to every single clone and say their name. I mean, I doubt he would even know, but in that case, why does he know Commander Cody? Well, my theory is this. Palpatine knew that Obi-Wan was very important to Anakin. So, of course, in classic Palpatine fashion, he would do his homework and know who his clone commander was, who his captains were, pretty much as he could possibly know about him. And I think he wanted Obi-Wan to be the first Jedi killed in Order 66, because he knew that Obi-Wan, along with Ahsoka and Padme, were probably the only people who could turn Anakin back to the light. At this point, no one knows where Ahsoka is, and I mean, Padme does die eventually, but I just don't think it's a coincidence that Cody was the only one he knew by name and was the very first one he called. Now, am I reading too deep into this? Absolutely. I mean, that's like 95% of Star Wars theories and videos. But I do think it's a fun little detail to consider and kind of pay attention to next time you watch Revenge of the Sith, which for me is probably going to be in like 30 minutes. Everybody knows I'm obsessed with that movie. Speaking of which, go check out my entire fan film series on my other channel called Stop Motion Commotion. This series is about Order 66. You can watch the full 30-minute movie, or you can watch it in parts on the playlist that I created on the channel. But that's all I got for you guys today.
With great interest. Prize, to be sure, but a welcome one.
2 episodes in, and not bad, Skeleton Crew. Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you never miss any other videos that we do. Now, let's get into it. So, Skeleton Crew is basically about 4 kids who live on the most boring planet in the entire galaxy, so much so that their planet literally just looks like a giant suburb as far as the eye can see. These 4 kids end up stumbling upon an ancient pirate ship and accidentally get blasted off into space, where they have absolutely no idea where they are. Apparently their planet is hidden. Later on it's referred to as being a myth. They end up stumbling upon an ancient droid that they ask to take literally anywhere just to find directions to back home. The droid takes them to a spaceport where they get out and suddenly realize that this is a pirate spaceport. And I really think that the contrast between their home and this spaceport was why they made their home planet look so dull. Like, there were aliens, but most characters are humans. Like, it looks a lot like Earth. And then you go out into the galaxy, you go out into this pirate spaceport, and almost no humans, like, at all. I mean, disgusting creatures running around. All the characters are all either a droid of some kind or an alien. Like, I could probably count how many of those characters were just human. So I really think that that was the reason that they made their home so boring and dull, like it was just a suburb somewhere. The pirates find out that they are from this ancient mythical planet, apparently, that is holding some sort of treasure. Of course, pirates, treasure, you get the gist. They try to run away and get caught and thrown into, they call it the brig. I wanted to say dungeon just now. As they're trying to find out how to get out of there, they realize that someone else is in the brig with them, and it is a Jedi. Now, one of the characters is kind of obsessed with Jedi. He thought that the ship that he stumbled upon was an ancient Jedi temple when it was just a ship. He made a hopeful wish that didn't come true. The Jedi uses the Force on the keys to the dungeon, and that is how episode 2 ends. Now, I am paraphrasing a lot. Obviously, it was 2 episodes that were like 30 minutes long. But as far as the gist so far of the show, I can't believe I'm saying this about a Star Wars project in 2024, but it was fun. And I can't remember the last time I watched a Star Wars show, invested, smiling, having a good time like I did. No lore breaking, nothing super lame like that. Like, obviously it's the first 2 episodes, it's not going to be craziness automatically, but it also kept my attention, and it really gave that Goonies, Stranger Things type of feeling where it knew exactly what it was trying to be. This wasn't trying to fool you into thinking you were going to see some crazy adventure with lightsabers and, you know, characters popping up. Like, this is exactly what it looks like. It is telling you what it is, and it is showing you what it is, and that is what it is. If you like these types of shows and movies, you're gonna like this. If you don't, I'd say still give it a chance if you're a Star Wars fan, but if you don't like it, this is probably not for you. But as far as me, I am impressed because I was definitely walking into this expecting not really to like it and for it not to really be my thing, but it's already growing on me. As far as this show so far, the first 2 episodes, I'm going to give it a 7.5 only because the first episode did drag on a little bit. The second episode, fantastic. Really had a lot of fun with that. Star Wars fan films. Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you never miss a single video that we do. Now, let's get into it. So, I have been very vocal on how I feel about Star Wars fan films. I made an entire video talking about how I think Star Wars fan films are our last hope. Clearly, Disney is out of touch. There is a lot of untapped potential that Star Wars has that they haven't even gotten close to being able to harness. The closest thing has been Tales of the Jedi or those tiny little Star Wars Old Republic cinematics, and they've only made one, I think. Maybe 1 or 2 while Disney still owned Star Wars. The others were there when George Lucas still owned it. But I have been seeing so many great Star Wars fan films. The one most notably as of recently has been the 212th Star Wars fan film. This was amazing, and this isn't a review because I just want you to go watch it. It is that good. Words honestly can't describe how amazing this fan film really is, and it's really just so good. Go watch it and comment here on what you thought about it. But I just wanted to talk about how Star Wars fan films have grown. Back in the day, it was fans going in the jungle and fighting each other with sticks and painting over it with, lightsabers, which was good and fine back then. But nowadays, with AI and the effects and just so much talent that fans have nowadays, these fan films are becoming better by a mile than anything Disney has given us. That includes The Mandalorian. Fans now have the technology to do what you needed hundreds and hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars to be able to do back in the day. This fan film was just some guy and his laptop. I mean, there's a possibility it could have been more than one person, but 90% of the time, it's just a guy, just another fan who had an idea and made it happen. And in a time where Disney just refuses to give in to any of the potential Star Wars has, fans are stepping in and making Star Wars great. And I just wanted to point that out. Fans are going absolutely insane nowadays, and it's only going to get better, especially when something like AI continues to progress and people continue to learn how to make it better and better, where they can put their ideas and imagination on a screen without having to spend millions of dollars. Meanwhile, other companies are spending $180 million to bring us, But yes, tell me what you think in the comments below.
Why was Ahsoka not in Revenge of the Sith? It's because she didn't exist at the time, so George Lucas didn't put her in. That's it, guys. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'm just kidding. I mean, that is the reason, but that's not the reason I'm going to talk about. Before we get into the video, seriously, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you never miss another video. Let's get into it. So other than the real life reason, why was Ahsoka not even mentioned in Revenge of the Sith? Ahsoka is a huge part in Anakin's story, and a huge part of the Clone Wars. Other than Padme and Obi-Wan, Ahsoka was one of the most important things to Anakin. So it's kind of crazy that in that entire movie, she's never even mentioned. Especially after they spoke to each other only mere hours ago. And perhaps if the Chancellor hadn't been captured, they would have been together fighting on Mandalore. Again, outside of the real life reason of her not existing in 2005, my theory for the in-world reason Ahsoka wasn't mentioned was because she just simply wasn't important. Anakin had been fighting in what was called the Outer Rim sieges for around 6 months straight, meaning he didn't see Padme for that time. The only thing they really got to do was call each other on the little holograms, and even that was hard to do with Obi-Wan and others roaming around. So when they finally did get to see each other, the only thing on Anakin's mind was Padme. Not Ahsoka, not Obi-Wan, Padme. Shortly after that, he had those nightmares which only increased those feelings and increased those thoughts of nothing but saving Padme. And then things started to snowball with General Grievous and the potential for the war to be over. On top of that, Padme was pregnant. So to be completely honest, there really was no room in Anakin's mind for Ahsoka. Thus, she was left out of the movie. Now, again, I just have to reiterate, the actual reason why is because Ahsoka didn't exist when the movie was being written, created, or released. But as far as the in-world reason, you have to take in all of the things I said into account. Ahsoka just wasn't the most important thing, especially to Anakin in that time. But hey, that's just a theory. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, I released a new fan film on my other channel called Stop Motion Commotion. It is out right now, so make Bo-Katan wield the Darksaber and Mando can't. Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you don't miss another video. Now, let's get into it. So, in episode 2 of The Mandalorian, we see Din Djarin once again use the Darksaber. And it is still extremely heavy and hard for him to use. In fact, ever since he acquired the Darksaber in Season 2 of The Mandalorian, it seems to have been getting heavier and heavier, and just overall harder for him to wield. But then again, we just saw Bo-Katan use the Darksaber in the most recent episode of The Mandalorian, and she had no trouble with it. In fact, she was using it very well, almost Jedi-like. Or at least someone who definitely knows what they're doing. So, how come Bo-Katan has no trouble with it when it rightfully belongs to Mando? Before we even really talk about this, we have to understand that it is the Darksaber, and it is clearly unique. So we can't just talk about this like this is just some normal old lightsaber. But anyway, in Season 3, Episode 15 of Star Wars Rebels, Trials of the Darksaber, we get a little bit of insight on it, and of lightsabers in general. One of which that lightsabers actually are drawn to each other kind of like magnets when they're really close. That doesn't really have anything to do with this video, it was just really cool. But without going too deep in depth of the episode, Sabine and Kanan have a duel as she's trying to learn how to use the Darksaber. Once she ignites it, it automatically becomes very heavy to her, just like it became heavy to Mando and Paz Vizsla in the Book of Boba Fett. It wasn't like dragging her down, but she did comment that it's a lot heavier than she thought. As Kanan explained using the lightsaber to her, and they dueled a little bit, it became lighter and lighter to her, to the point where she was swinging it around very well, like it didn't really have that much weight at all. So perhaps the reason Din is having trouble using it is because he doesn't understand it. I mean, Bo-Katan doesn't need to be a Jedi to understand the lightsaber. Neither did Pre Vizsla. So maybe that's why, but I don't know. That's just a theory. Again, it's the Darksaber. Things are very different with it, and I guess we're going to learn the actual explanation. Maybe Din Djarin will get some sort of, Jedi teaching from Luke, or who knows, maybe Ahsoka. It's really a mystery on what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have in store with us when it comes to the Darksaber. But hey, that's how I like it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Big problem. Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you always get notified whenever I release a new video. With that said, let's get into it. The Bad Batch is a pretty fair show. I don't think anyone could really say that it's bad. I know some people get annoyed with Omega and with the Bad Batch going on side missions, 8 out of the 16 episodes that we usually get. But even with that, I don't think anyone in the fandom could really say they hate this show. However, it does have a big problem, at least in my opinion. And that is that the show isn't Clone Wars Season 8. Now, let me explain. I don't mean the literal Clone Wars. Obviously, the Clone Wars had to end eventually. Order 66, that's kind of how it works. But I honestly feel like the biggest issue with this show is that it's only focusing on one group. 7 characters, and that's it. Clone Wars could focus on Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka. Sometimes they'll have just episodes with Rex and a few of his clones. Sometimes they'll create entirely new characters and have different episodes that are interesting with them. But the liberty with the Clone Wars is that they could go to any one of those characters and tell really how many episodes as they wanted to tell. Sure, there was a center focus, Ahsoka, Rex, Anakin, and Obi-Wan. But Darth Maul, Ventress, Yoda, Mace Windu, they had a ton of completely different characters that they could play with. Realistically, they had the entire galaxy at the time of the Clone Wars. That's because it's not called the Ahsoka show or the Ahsoka and Anakin show. They weren't restricted to a specific group or a specific character. The Bad Batch are. And it's really ironic that most of the best episodes of the Bad Batch series don't have the Bad Batch in it. Or they're just focusing on Crosshair, which technically he's not really part of the Bad Batch anymore. Now, focusing on one group can work. I'm just saying that in this timeline, they could be focusing on a ton of different areas, planets, characters, and situations that don't involve going on another Sid mission. The first few minutes of the very first episode, I thought, man, I would love to see a series focusing on maybe Kanan and Hera going around and their adventures in the galaxy. Or I'd love a political drama featuring Chuchi and maybe Senator Organa. I don't know, maybe it's just really hard to fall in love with a show when you wish you were watching a different one. I would kill for a Hera and Kanan TV series. I think that's a big reason Tales of the Jedi is so exciting, because they can tell any story about any character at any time. They could tell stories about Luke. I wouldn't really be down for it, but they could tell stories about Rey. The title being Tales of the Jedi means that it's completely free of restriction, other than the idea that it has to have something to do with the Jedi, which even that isn't fully true because we got an entire episode about Ahsoka's mother. Sure, Ahsoka was in the episode, but it wasn't really about her. It was about her parents. So even the restriction of it having to have something to do with the Jedi isn't 100% true. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want a series about literally any Jedi that they could think of? We could get stories about Cal Kestis. I mean, the potential is literally limitless with that show, and yet we have the Bad Batch where you basically have to focus on the Bad Batch or something affecting them. Again, I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm just saying every time they go off and tell a story about a different character other than the Bad Batch in the Bad Batch series, it just seems like it gets that much more interesting. And then 2 episodes later, we have to go and be stuck on another Sid mission. Or we're going to a remote planet watching the sunset and fighting a tsunami with Big Bone Mace Windu. Maybe I'd be more forgiving of this if we had a different series like Tales of the Jedi constantly coming out like the Bad Batch is. Tales of the Jedi honestly has the potential to just be a limited series. We could literally never get another episode of that series. No season 2 has been confirmed, and even if there is 6 shorts, that's it? I don't know. I've just been thinking about this for a while. I do like the Bad Batch, don't get me wrong. It's just, especially in this timeline where everything is changing and the Empire is slowly taking over, I just feel like there are more interesting stories that we could be seeing. But hey, what do you think? Rey, Cal Kestis, Mando, looked at to being the future of Star Wars, but to be honest, not even close. Hello there, welcome to another video. Yes, I know I've been gone for a while, but I have been trying to get back on uploading every single day, so make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any other videos that we do. With that said, let's get into it. All of these characters are kind of seen to be the future of Star Wars. Of course, it was announced that Rey is going to be getting her own movie. Cal Kestis has at least one more game, and who knows, maybe a TV show coming. Mando has been the face of Star Wars since 2019, and kind of the same thing for Grogu. But to be honest, none of these characters are the future of Star Wars. At least potentially. Rey has a lot of negative discourse, and I'm sure a lot of fans are going to not even really want to go and watch her movie when it does come out, which who knows when that actually will be. It already kind of feels like Mando's story is over, and Cal Kestis is already on his 2nd game, and I think they said it's gonna be 3 games. All of these characters and shows have a huge disadvantage going against them, other than maybe Grogu and Mando, but if you look at the fandom and you look at the discourse, it seems that people are already starting to kind of get tired of them. So if it's not any of those characters or shows, what is the future of Star Wars? To that, I give you 4 words. Tales of the Jedi. If you've been following me, you know that I really love this series. Even though it was only 6 shorts and they weren't even all that great. I mean, the Dooku stuff was really cool, but I mean, we've all seen better Ahsoka content, and I'm sure we will in the Ahsoka show. No, what I really loved about Tales of the Jedi was the potential behind it. The entire idea that it doesn't have anything to do with a specific character
or a specific timeline. And the only requirement for being a Tales of the Jedi episode is to have a Jedi in it. Or even in some cases be about someone closely connected to a Jedi. Hence the episode about Ahsoka's mother. The best part of Tales of the Jedi is the idea that you could go anywhere. You could go tell stories about Anakin in his younger days in the Jedi Temple. You could tell stories about Rey and the 15 years in between episode 9 and this new movie that's coming out. Or Cal Kestis, again, in between the first game and Jedi Survivor. It's been, what, 10 years? And kind of the same thing with Grogu. Technically, Grogu isn't technically a Jedi, but I think he's close enough to qualify. You could tell stories about him and Jedi Master Kelleran in over 20 years of potential content before he even meets Mando. All of that is possible in Tales of the Jedi. With, again, the only requirement with that show is that it has to have something to do with a Jedi and it's canon. But that's really it. Why not make a series called Star Wars Tales, where you have the potential to go and tell 3 or 4 episode arcs in the Clone Wars style, and you're not even tied down to just having something to do with a Jedi. Go tell stories about Boba Fett. Go tell stories about Finn. Of course, a lot of fans wouldn't like that, including myself, but with a show like that, you have the ability. With all these other shows, the only way we get to see a lot of the characters that we really love is through things like flashbacks. We all wanted to see Hayden Christensen in the Obi-Wan show, but he barely got any actual screen time, other than the very end with half of his face and the few flashbacks that we got. Sure, he was in the suit, but really, it's Darth Vader. We wanted to see Hayden's face. But with a show like Tales of the Jedi, you could go anywhere with any character at any timeline, which is absolutely unheard of. Now, will this be the actual future of Star Wars? Probably not. I mean, it's pretty clear that they want to tell a ton of new stories about new characters that they create. It does seem like they're going to go forward with Rey, and they already have a season 4 of Mando written. At least that's what Jon Favreau said. But I just really wanted to point out the absolutely insane potential something like Tales of the Jedi has. In that if they made more stories like the Clone Wars, where you weren't restricted to a specific group of characters and you could go tell stories about any character at that time period, or go the Tales of the Jedi route and not even have a specific time period and just tell any story at any time that you want. If they did that, I think Star Wars would go in a very, very positive direction very quickly, especially if Dave Filoni is behind it. The Bad Batch has a big problem, and it is very strongly related to this. If you want to hear me talk about that, hit the card in the top right for my full thoughts and explanation on why did Anakin cry on Mustafar. Hello there, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Do it.
When you hit subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss another video. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into it. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie and my favorite movie of all time. A big part of that is because, well, it's amazing, and also it's a huge part of my childhood. Back when I was young, my parents bought me and my siblings the DVD, and with that came a lot of the behind the scenes. A lot of extra things with it. But even with knowing a lot about this movie specifically, one of the biggest questions I and a lot of other fans had was, why was Anakin crying on Mustafar? And the reason we never got an answer to this is because there's no behind the scenes, no explanation. George Lucas doesn't explain it in an interview. The answer can only be found in the novelization. There's a lot of interesting things in the novelization that we never really get, so I will likely be covering a lot from the Revenge of the Sith novelization. But as for the answer to the question at hand, the reason Anakin was crying on Mustafar isn't because of any of the younglings that he killed, isn't because of any of the Jedi or the loss of Mace Windu, isn't because of the loss of any of the friends that he forced to betray him and that he has betrayed. It is because of the loss of his former self. The fact that Anakin had become what he swore to destroy, a Sith Lord. And just the fact that he was so far away from what the boy on Tatooine wanted to be, and what he thought he had to do to save Padme. The psychology of Anakin is so interesting to me because a lot of people believe that he is just a dull character and that the performance from Hayden Christensen was really terrible. But George Lucas has said himself that he portrayed Anakin perfectly and exactly how George wanted him to. Hayden Christensen learned and knows so much of the character because he asked George Lucas so that he could portray the character exactly
how he wanted him to. He even had some of the tones and cadences of James Earl Jones. For example, when Darth Vader says, "Yes, my master," it sounds a little bit more like,
"Yes, my master."
which is why when Anakin says it, it sounds more like, "Yes, my master." He was mimicking how Darth Vader said certain things, so that it could match as perfectly as it possibly could. And in my opinion, I think if George had maybe one extra movie to tell the story of Anakin during the Clone Wars, that people would understand a lot better Anakin's character. But yes, that is why Anakin cried on Mustafar. Not because of any of the terrible, evil things that he had done in the pursuit to save Padme, but because he was mourning the loss of his former self and everything he wanted to be. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments
Hello there,
below.
I'm Tech
Make
Solo.
sure you-
Welcome to the video. Now, if there's one gripe I have about my favorite Star Wars movie, and favorite movie of all time in that matter, is that we never get to see what happens in the Jedi Temple during Operation Nightfall, specifically with Anakin. Order 66 is also my favorite moment in all of Star Wars, just because it changes literally everything for the rest of the foreseeable future. Nothing is ever the same after that, for anyone. But we're talking about Operation Nightfall specifically. Sure, we get to see a little bit in a few video games and a couple of novelizations here and there, but never anything really in live action or in great detail. Operation Nightfall was not a quick thing, so honestly I think it could be a whole movie. In fact, I've made my own set of animated fan films about this very thing. If you want to watch those, I'll link my other channel in the description called Stop Motion Commotion. It's in the description. Anyway, I think Operation Nightfall deserves a movie, or maybe a short film or something. Now, it doesn't have to be something super ridiculously violent. Even in the Obi-Wan show, the only thing they showed Anakin doing is really like killing younglings, which I don't want to see. At least not in fine detail like I'm saying it. Even George Lucas didn't go that far. He implied it. But hey, everyone else is free game. It doesn't have to be anything super crazy or ridiculously violent either. Star Wars has always had a line, especially with violence, that they just don't cross. George Lucas even said he never wanted to create a scene or a character that was so disgusting or gory that you don't want to watch it, like it's nasty to look at.
And I'm not creating a monster. I didn't want to create some ugly, somebody ripped out their intestines and threw them all over their head, and you can't watch it. It works in a different emotional way. It's not repulsive. It's just something you should be afraid of.
Sure, he did scary things such as with Darth Maul, but he never really went that deep into, any kind of gore. So I don't think Star Wars really should, except on maybe 2 or 3 occasions, which I'll talk about that in another video. But yeah, I don't know if I'm alone on this or not. I've never met anyone whose favorite moment in Star Wars is Order 66. But yeah, I think it would be a really cool thing for us to see some sort of extension of what Anakin did in there. It could also help people understand why Anakin fell to the dark side, and some more psychology with him, and how he felt about the Jedi and how the Jedi felt about him, and it could be a whole thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll get something like this someday. But for now, all we can really do is, make fan films, which is exactly what I'm doing on my other channel that I already mentioned. But hey, tell me what you think. Do you think that this kind of movie is necessary? Do you want it more than anything like I do? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, make sure you... Hello there. So, 200, huh? Thank you guys. Seriously. I know 200 subscribers isn't ridiculous compared to a lot of other channels, but I don't like comparing myself to other channels. I like engaging with the people that want to be here. So to all 200 of you guys, thank you from the very bottom of my heart. The original goal was to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, but at this rate we may just end up getting to 2,000 or more, which would be amazing. But again, the goal is still 1,000 for now. Again, thank you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it. Now, with that said, let's get into the video. The clones were created to basically be the perfect soldiers. In fact, that was the reason that Count Dooku wanted to use Jango Fett as the clone's template, because he was the perfect soldier. At the time, he was the absolute best bounty hunter in the galaxy. So, a big question I hear people ask is, why would Palpatine want to phase out the clones? Why on earth would he want to replace the perfect soldiers? Well, there are a few reasons, and also a quick theory that I have. Now, one of the biggest canon reasons is because the clones were very, very expensive to create. And though Palpatine was going to be the richest man ever, he was going to be the emperor, he didn't really have anyone to oppose him now that all the Jedi were gone. So why spend money on a highly trained, expensive
clone army when all you're going to use them as is a police force? There's really no reason for that. So that was reason number one. Another reason is because Palpatine only wanted mass. He didn't really care about the training of the soldiers he had, only that there were a ton of them. Because, once again, all they're going to be used for is a police force. Believe it or not, under Palpatine, after the fall of the Jedi, though there were, an insurrection here and there, the galaxy, for the most part, was at peace. Or at least it was quiet. There was no actual war going on until maybe 15 years after Episode 3. So again, Palpatine didn't really need an army. He only needed a police force. Which also explains why in Star Wars Rebels, the stormtroopers that we see aren't exactly smart. And that reason is also canon. Now, here's my theory on why I think the rest of the Empire was so quick to get rid of the clones. It is because they were too perfect. The clones were loyal, followed orders, and 99% of the time, they were not corrupt, with the exception of Slick from Season 1 of the Clone Wars. And for that very reason, the rest of the Empire wanted them out, because the Empire was bringing in these new people who were corrupt and needed their soldiers to be corrupt. The perfect example is Rampart. Captain Wilco didn't want to lie on the report, which got him killed. Not being corrupt and being too good of a soldier got Wilco killed. And that is one of many reasons the Empire / Palpatine phased out the clones. But hey, Omega might end up being a better character than Ahsoka. Hello there, welcome to the video. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Do it.
When you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell so you never miss another upload. With all of that said, let's get into the video. Dave Filoni is a genius. We all should know this. Everything the man touches turns into gold. Avatar: The Last Airbender, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Mando, a lot of Star Wars Rebels, and Star Wars Resistance. We don't talk about this. This doesn't count. This doesn't exist. But other than that, everything he touches turns to gold, one way or another. He has had a lot of success and created a lot of amazing characters from scratch, but none more impressive than Ahsoka Tano. So much so that she kind of became one of the main focal points of the Clone Wars, if not the main one. She has her own book, she's been in comics, made an appearance in The Mandalorian, and now she's getting her own show. But only the OGs will remember all the way back in the very beginning, in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the movie. This movie had mixed reviews. It was really just like 7 or 8 episodes mushed into one movie and then put on the big screen. So it as a movie wasn't amazing, but it as Star Wars: The Clone Wars as a TV show, it was just as good as any of the episodes from Season 1 and 2, which at least in my opinion were really good. Back then, people did not receive Ahsoka very well. She was a snarky teenager who constantly disrespected all of the characters that we know and love. So it's really not a big surprise that in the beginning people found her very annoying. Now personally, I didn't really see it back then, mostly because I was the same age as Ahsoka when she was doing those same things. So I never really saw Ahsoka as annoying at all. But there absolutely was merit and reason for people to dislike her. And she has ended up being one of the best characters in all of Star Wars. In fact, she is actually my favorite Star Wars character next to Anakin. So I have sung Ahsoka's praises this whole time. So why is the video titled Omega Might Be a Better Character Than Ahsoka? It is because Dave Filoni is doing it again. He has created a character in Omega that isn't exactly the most well received. Now again, personally, I don't find Omega annoying. I just find her adorable. She makes me want to have a daughter one day. But I am seeing some people say that she is getting mildly annoying. Sound familiar? Now, if I'm being completely honest, it is a low possibility that Omega will eventually become a better character than Ahsoka. But I do believe in the next few years, as we watch Omega grow up, she will become more and more likable, and more people will end up loving her as a character. Will she become a better character than Ahsoka? Possibly. I honestly doubt it. But once again, it is Dave Filoni. And anything's possible. Again, everything the man touches turns to gold. Almost everything. But hey, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Hey guys, this video was actually made for my other channel to raise more awareness for this one, so I just wanted to clear up any kind of confusion. Hello there, welcome to the channel. Now guys, I know this isn't the usual videos that I make, but I just wanted to show a little bit of what I do on my other channel called It's Tech Solo. If you haven't subscribed there yet, I will put the card on the top right, or you can hit the link in the description. Make sure you stay until the end of the video to get a sneak peek of my next stop motion coming out later this month. Now, let's get into the video. Now, with episode 3 of Bad Batch, there was a lot of questions answered, like what Crosshair's been up to, and where and what happened to Commander Cody. I'll be making separate videos on both of those things on my other channel. Again, make sure you hit subscribe. But what I wanted to talk about in this video is the fact that the governor of Dexys, of the Separatist-controlled planet, still believed that Count Dooku was a good guy. Just how the rest of the galaxy will see Count Dooku in the future. Now, in the episode, she tells the Imperial Governor that Count Dooku was ultimately right, that the Republic was insanely corrupt, and that eventually it would try to take over. Now, we know that Separatists kind of idolize Count Dooku, but if you actually take a step back and look, Count Dooku will be looked at very, very fondly in the future. Here's what I mean. If you didn't know, at the end of the war, a lot of the Separatists who just still wanted to fight just joined the rebellion. You even get a mention of this in Andor, when Cassian is naming off some of the sects that are still fighting the Empire. He says Sep, which is just short for separatist. But a good chunk of the rebellion were separatists, so they automatically are going to kind of look up to him and still think of him very favorably. And a lot of them were people who were in the Republic but didn't like when they became the Empire. Now, let's take another step back. The way people looked at Count Dooku wasn't as a Sith Lord. That's why anytime he had to act as a Sith Lord, he used the name Darth Tyrannus. But anywhere else, he was just Count Dooku of Sereno. No one ever knew that he was a Sith Lord. He was only an ex-Jedi. So for the people who liked the Republic but didn't like the Empire, they thought of him as the ex-Jedi who was right. Though they think he started and really inflicted the war, now they would probably think that he did it for the right reasons, because of the corruption in the Republic that ultimately led to the Empire. And again, the other chunk of the rebellion were separatists who already admired him. So with that, Count Dooku would be one of the most fondly remembered staples to ever be involved in the Clone War, in the Jedi, or in the Republic. Which is absolutely insane because we know what he was really up to. The main characters of Star Wars really know what he was up to, and the rest of the galaxy stayed utterly oblivious. Now, of course, you would say that the Jedi would try to inform the rest of the Republic that Count Dooku was a Sith Lord, but likely the rest of the galaxy probably looked at this as fake news. Count Dooku wasn't fighting alongside battle droids in the war. That's what General Grievous was for. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to It's Tech Solo.
Do it.
Also subscribe here if you're new. If you made it to the end of the video, this is what I'm working on next. That's all I got for you guys today. Bye. Welcome to the 501st. Good to see you again, Wolf. Likewise. Cringe? Ah, look at you, Ben. I almost mistaked you for a functioning adult. Yeah, it's been a while. Looks like you've settled in with the pack pretty well. They're alright. I'll always have blue coursing through my veins now.